Well, the string of really weird Thursday night football games continue. 2 weeks ago, the Los Angeles Rams at home lost to a completely injured San Francisco 49ers team with Mac Jones at quarterback. Last week, the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles lost by a wide margin to the New York Giants. And this week, the Pittsburgh Steelers, heavily favored versus the Cincinnati Bengals, lose on the road here. And yet another divisional Thursday night football matchup on the road that Mike Tomlin loses. 0-7 now in his career in these moments. With a 33-31 loss and just a disappointing effort, simply, guys, from the defense. Couldn't stop them all day long. The offense continuously, kept them in the football game, all these different things. And unfortunately, that defense just couldn't buy a stop at the end of the game. So before we get into our post-game show here, guys, where I break down everything that happened and I give my takeaways and kind of my thoughts heading into the rest of this year's Steelers season, make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we're going to have post-game reactions to every single Steelers game this year. And, of course, we're going to be getting you guys extensive coverage tomorrow after I watch the film. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And with that, let's look at the stats here in this game where, Joe Flacco, less than 2 weeks after being traded to this Bengals team, he's been the Steelers' kryptonite for a long time at this point. And, he really played an incredible game. He looked like Tom Brady at points in this football game, just getting the ball out fast, not giving the Steelers pass rush an opportunity to go get him. And, the secondary wasn't holding up their end of the bargain. The coverage, we'll talk about that later, wasn't fantastic from the Steelers today. But you got to give credit to Joe Flacco, 342 yards through the air with 3 touchdowns and no picks. It felt like the Steelers were waiting for Flacco to make a mistake and kind of they played their bend, don't break style of defense that worked against New England and worked against Minnesota and worked against Cleveland, but it didn't work tonight. So Flacco deserves a lot of credit for that. Chase Brown was also excellent, over 100 yards. This is now the third time the Steelers' run defense has given up a 100-plus yard rusher, and this Bengals rush offense was not good, this season heading into tonight. And then Jamar Chase with one of the games of his career, 16 catches, 161 yards, and a touchdown. Simply sensational. He was always open. There's just no answers. The Steelers tried throwing zone at them, throwing man at them, and Flacco and Chase were just picking them apart all night long. But Aaron Rodgers in the offense does put up 31 points. I thought Rodgers had a really good night, 4 touchdown passes, but unfortunately he threw a really bad pick, and then there was a really weird interception that I don't really put on Rodgers also in the second quarter. But Pat Freiermuth had a big day. Jaylen Warren had a big day. This offense, man, is still humming. And that's the third straight week in a row where this offense has really hit its stride. But we got to start with my takeaways here on defense. And plain simply, guys, this wasn't good enough. It doesn't matter how you slice it. Run defense, pass rush, pass coverage. Doesn't matter, man. You almost give up 500 yards of offense in this game. And it seemed like, Flacco and the Bengals had long fields consistently. And kind of around that point, around like midway through the second quarter, they went on a long touchdown drive, and the Steelers gave them the ball back immediately. They go on another long touchdown drive. Then they give them the ball back immediately again. Then they drive down them again. And, they dominated time of possession today, obviously. They couldn't get them off the field on third downs. Big chunk plays in both phases for Cincinnati tonight. And the Steelers just had no answer. I don't have answers for you right now in terms of, what the Steelers did schematically and what wasn't working. But, to my eye, they were playing man. They were playing zone. They were mixing it up. They were putting people at the line of scrimmage. They did a lot of the same things that they did versus Minnesota and against Cleveland that worked. It's just Joe Flacco was just picking them apart. And you got to give him credit for that. But, also on that final drive, what kind of set up the game-winning field goal here was Jaylen Ramsey giving up a big completion down the sideline to Tee Higgins. Really poor technique. He got beat. And honestly, Ramsey got beat all day long. It didn't matter if it was Jamar Chase. Ramsey did make a nice play in the red zone on a Tee Higgins pass attempt, but it just wasn't consistent enough. Jaylen Ramsey is somebody that this team traded for and somebody that they paid for to specifically take away Jamar Chase, all right? They specifically traded for him because they thought he was the guy that could handle Jamar Chase. That just wasn't the case. I'm a opponent, I don't even know it here, but Chase just got whatever he wanted in this football game, and Tee Higgins almost finished with 100 yards receiving today. He averaged over 15 yards per reception. So, Jaylen Ramsey, very disappointing performance tonight. And I think the Steelers should take a very valuable lesson out of this, which is that he's not, this number one guy that you just put and you have follow a number one receiver. You put him in the nickel. That's where he's best. and you kind of just sort out the outside receivers with Joey Porter Jr. and Darius Slay, because they put Slay in the slot a lot more than in previous weeks. You could tell he was uncomfortable in there. So I think that the Steelers need to take that lesson here, that Jalen Ramsey's not somebody, especially against a top tier level wide receiver like Jamar Chase, where you just have him follow him around all game. And then, of course, he didn't do his job on the final drive there versus Higgins, and that's disappointing. But like I said multiple times on the show already, guys, give Joe Flacco his flowers, man. Like, he played really well today. I really do think that this Bengals team, has turned a new leaf here. And, they looked really bad for 4 straight weeks, and now that Flacco's had a little bit of time to learn the offense and learn the players and all that stuff, like, he looked like he was in full control of that offense. He was getting the ball out fast. He was throwing very accurately, very few inaccurate passes in this game. He threw with some great touch down the field. Like, if they can protect him like they protected him tonight, like, Joe Flacco is going to be somebody that can get the ball to Jamar Chase and Tee Higgins and, be a pretty decent quarterback in this offense. So, we'll see what the rest of the season looks like for the Bengals. But right now, they're just one game out of first place in the AFC North. Then, I think the defense will bounce back. I will say that, guys. This defense, obviously did not play well tonight, but we've seen that this defense has played quite well in moments. Now, you can say going against Dylan Gabriel and Carson Wentz, of course you're going to look good, but, I really do believe in the talent here. I think that, they're going to be able to, get to the quarterback more effectively in future weeks. I'm hoping that, once Ramsey goes back into his full-time slot position, if they make that adjustment, that's going to look a lot better. I think, this week was just a bad week, and sometimes that happens in the National Football League, especially on Thursdays. So I'm really hoping that this defense can bounce back, but we're midway through our takeaways here, guys. So grade tonight's performance from the Pittsburgh Steelers, A, B, C, D, or F. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of Fs down there in the comments section, and the defense certainly deserves an F. The offense deserves an A, so, give it a C minus. Is probably what I'm going to give it. I'm sure that's too high for a lot of people in the chat right now, and that's okay. But, I don't think today was necessarily all bad from the Pittsburgh Steelers. But before we get into the rest of my takeaways here and we wrap things up here tonight, you and I make decisions every single day, but on the Prize Picks app, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Football season is finally here, and you better believe I'll be getting my Prize Picks lineups in all season long. Prize Picks is simple to play. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks also puts their users first, so while withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure, Prize Picks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And a new feature from Prize Picks that I absolutely love is injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks will not count that as a loss. So you guys can take a look here. I took the more on DK Metcalf receiving yards, the more on rushing yards for Jaylen Warren, and interceptions for Joe Flacco. I can't believe he didn't throw an interception today. But, hey, give Joe Flacco his flowers. The Steelers dared him to play mistake-free football today, and that's exactly what he did. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup on the Prize Picks app today. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So now I will start my offensive takeaways here, guys, by saying that I'm not worried about the offense. All right, and this is now 3 straight weeks in a row where the Steelers' offense was absolutely humming. And if the defense wasn't on the field for long drives, time and time again, the Steelers only had 25 minutes with the football. They probably would have scored more than the 31 points that they scored. And the fact that they scored 31 points with the limited amount of time that they had the football and almost put 400 yards of offense up, it's actually really impressive, man. Jaylen Warren continues to show why he is one of the best running backs in this league, in my opinion. Aaron Rodgers was slinging that thing, outside of the one really bad throw and then the really weird interception that happened where, he throws a good ball to DK, he puts it on his shoulder, but he's only holding it with one hand, and then DJ Turner comes in and punches it out and gets control of the football. It's just a hell of a play by DJ Turner. This game is probably different, right, if one of those two things doesn't happen. So, it sucks that it comes down to that, but like the offense, it's now 3 straight weeks in a row. They're moving the football really well. They're enforcing their will at the line of scrimmage, and I think that there's too much talent on the Steelers' defensive trench to not get back to their normal selves on that side of the ball as well. So if you can control the line of scrimmage on both sides, you're going to have a chance against most NFL teams, and I still think this Steelers football team is capable of playing that kind of ball. It's just they didn't do that today, unfortunately, which is very disappointing, but like I mentioned with the defense, I think they'll get back to it. And like I said, guys, before, Aaron Rodgers was absolutely dealing in this football game, all right? Like his ability to improvise, his ability to get outside the pocket, his quick feet, his quick release, his gun of an arm is all still there. I was really impressed with the way Rodgers played today. Now, people will point to the 2 interceptions and stuff like that, but one of them was certainly his fault, terrible throw. No doubt about it. But that second one, man, like I really don't put it on Rodgers all that much. I think it was actually a pretty good throw, and it's just a weird kind of circumstance where the ball ends up into Cincinnati's defender's arms. So, I think Rodgers is playing really good football right now, and the fact that, they were in this game because of the offense being as efficient as they were should be encouraging and certainly the bright spot heading out of this loss. But then also Jaylen Warren, man, is absolutely awesome. Every Steelers fan knows this, but the way he just bounces off of people, the blocking up front was great for him today. And today showed just what Jaylen Warren is capable of when you give him the proper blocking up front. 127 yards rushing, almost 8 yards a carry. He was doing some stuff as a receiver today as well. Just really good stuff from Jaylen Warren. He's not slowing down anytime soon, which is another big positive to take away out of this game. And then another huge positive, and I'm sure people aren't too excited about me talking positively about some of the things that went right in this game, but there was a lot of positives on offense. And, Pat Freiermuth came in, and everybody, including myself, is talking about potentially trading him because he's not getting enough work in this offense. Today, 5 catches, over 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Has that big touchdown late on the 2nd down and 20 to put him back up on top. Muth, really showed his worth today, I think, for sure. And I think any chance now of the Steelers including him in a trade probably went down. So it's really great to see Muth. And also I want to give a quick shout out here and an honorable mention to Roman Wilson, who made 2 catches today. He should have made another third one. If Broderick Jones didn't hold on one of his catches over the middle. He looked good today, man. He moved really well. He ran good routes. He had reliable hands. I think Roman Wilson, should be the bona fide wide receiver 3 moving forward now that we're expected to get Calvin Austin the third back. So I'll just throw that out there. But, not a whole lot of good stuff to take away from the Steelers defense today, but certainly a lot of positives to take away on offense. So hopefully once we get a little bit of a break here, that defense can balance it out a little bit and the Steelers team can get back to winning football games. So point the finger for me down there in the comments section. Who's the most to blame for the loss today? If I have to point the finger at one person, I'm going to go with Jaylen Ramsey. They specifically traded and paid him for this matchup against Jamar Chase. And, it got to a point where they couldn't put him on him anymore because he was just getting toasted time and time and time again. So, listen, man, there's a lot of blame to go around. You can blame Rodgers for the interceptions, or you can blame the run defense for not stopping them, or you can blame the pass rush for not getting home. You can blame Tomlin for not having them ready, or, Terrell Austin for having a terrible defensive game plan, whatever you want to say. But, you're expecting Jaylen Ramsey to shut down Jamar Chase or at least contain him, and that wasn't even close to what happened tonight. So, some final thoughts. Tough loss. Thursday night can be weird. Super Bowl champions got toasted on Thursday night last week. The Los Angeles Rams, who I consider like a top 3 team in the game, lost to an inferior team at home on Thursday night 2 weeks ago. All right. These things happen. Even to good football teams, you lose to a team that you should beat. All right. But at the same time, that's not to turn a blind eye to the issues that the Steelers have. All right. We're going to watch the film, and I'm going to tell you what exactly went wrong tomorrow on the show. But we also have to look at the good along with the bad. And there was a lot of good, especially on the offensive side of the ball for the Pittsburgh Steelers today. You also have to look at the silver lining that this Steelers defense is still very talented. And I do believe that the more that this defense plays together, the better that they will play. And, I think that this team will bounce back in weeks to come. And I think that the Bengals will prove to be a better team than maybe a lot of people think right now. And I think that they will be somewhat competitive down the stretch. I think the Steelers will play better in future weeks. And this one stings for sure, but I'm not pressing the panic button, at least not yet, in terms of the Pittsburgh Steelers season. All right, guys, that'll be it for today's show. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're going to be going live tomorrow starting at 5 p.m. Eastern time for our second Steelers Talk Live show of the week. We'll do our mailbag. We'll go over the film from this week's matchup here, go over what went wrong, what went right, all that stuff. I'll have my takeaways tomorrow, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about some trade stuff tomorrow as well. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Tonight's a tough loss, but I promise you guys, better days are ahead, and it's all going to be okay here on Steelers Talks. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Till next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.